What skill takes 10 hours to learn but pays off forever? Story 1. Shortcuts for working with text cells. Control arrow, go to start end of next word. Shift arrow, select one more character. Shift Control arrow, select multiple words at once. Use start in keys as well. Double-clicking a word selects it. Double-clicking dragging selects multiple words. In Sheets or Excel, it also works to go to other cells, or the last cell where you have text. I know people that have been working for a long time with computers and still don't know these. Story 2. Basic car maintenance. I had to help out a high schooler yesterday when his car overheated from a leaking radiator. He couldn't even open his hood. He pulled the inside lever, but couldn't figure out the latch under the hood. He looked at me like a magician when I opened it in a second. Filled the rad with water, and he was able to get home. I gave him a funnel and another 2 gallons of water and told him to not let the temp gauge go into the red. I told him it's currently a 2,300 fix, but if he cooks the engine, it's 2,300. Story 3. Saying thank you and always speaking more than minimum. Soon you'll get better service, more out of your relationship, and it definitely pays until one day after forever. Story 4. Learn a quicker way to tie your shoes. Depending on how you've learned, it's overcomplicated. You're welcome. Story 5. Getting in the credit card game. Having a simple setup of cards covering groceries, dining, and everything else. Even for something simple like cashback will pay you thousands without changing any of your spend. Habits makes your credit score go up nicely as long as you pay off. Maybe a little longer for the travel game, but not that crazy. As long as you're not trying to balance a bunch of different card providers, only use 2. Story 6. Learning basic cooking skills can completely change your life. Just knowing how to make simple, healthy meals saves money and keeps you healthier. Another is touch typing. It boosts efficiency forever. These small investments pay dividends daily for the rest of your life. Story 7. Touch typing. There are a couple of websites aimed at gamifying it, all for free. I picked it up in a job when we were in a work lull and I was bored. It has been the gift that keeps on giving. I can take excellent notes in client meetings without having to constantly break eye contact or look distracted. I type so much faster and my writing can now just about keep pace with my thoughts or someone speaking. Story 8. Juggling. It's very good for your brain. Any balance or coordination skills training is pretty easy and really good for you. Story 9. How to floss correctly. It'll pay off in your 40s by sparing you a staggering amount of dental bills for fillings, root canals, and extractions. As you age, your teeth continue to wear, and learning how to properly floss early on and doing so regularly will save you thousands, as well as a great deal of crippling agony. Story 10. I have 2. 1. Basic hand sewing so you can make simple mends. So many things just on a seam, which means they're normally totally fixable. I taught my 6-year-old in about 10 minutes, and now she takes great pride in patching up her stuffed animals and blanket. 2. How to use your standard tool set and make simple repairs. If you are a new homeowner or have a shoot landlord, this sometimes becomes a necessity, so learning early and not when you have to can save you a headache. Story 11. Juggling 3-ball is so easy, maybe 3 to 5 30-minute practices and it's yours for life. Granted, it doesn't really get you anything, but 9 of people can't do it, and that's where something can learn with anything. I learned with 3 random rocks I liked. Story 12. Budgeting and investing. Becoming financially savvy can be the difference between barely scraping by and living a very decent life. Also, basic emotional intelligence. Life would be so much better if people knew how to handle their emotions and those of others. And there's a whole list of other ones. Cooking, nutrition, strength training, first aid, swimming. Surprising how many people can't swim. Sewing, growing your own herbs and veggies, dental care, skin care, eye care, ergonomical desk setup, bike and car maintenance, computer skills, electricity, things like fixing broken sockets and hanging lamps. The list goes on. Putting 10 hours in will teach you enough to vastly improve your quality of life. Financial literacy and emotional intelligence are 2 pillars of adulting that aren't usually taught in a classroom, yet they define so much of our daily success. Spending just 10 hours to understand how money works or how to navigate complex emotions can genuinely change your life's trajectory. It's about building a foundation that makes every other challenge in life just a little bit easier to handle. Story 13. Would disagree with any of the computer stuff commented and double agree with any of the physical skill set stuff. Swimming, fixing a broken car, driving manual, CPR, etc. Story 14. Learning how to make a good fixing in stuff like brick, wood, plasterboard, or whatever. It's not hard to do any of these things, but it's important to know how to do it with each material. You'll be able to put up shelves, etc., pictures on a wall, attach a hose thing, etc., the outside of a house, anything. It's important to know how to do it. Then your entire family can nag you to put up some shelves or put a picture up or attach this hose thing I've bought at BQ. It's great. Story 15, basic car maintenance. You can learn to change oil, do brakes, change a tire, perform basic checks of things like fluids and tire pressure, all in less than term hours. Story 16, basic sewing and mending. Knowing how to repair your clothes, hem a pair of pants, or just sew on a button can save so much money in the long run. Story 17, a silly one, but learning how to properly bag groceries. I worked for Trader Joe's for years, and it's such a small skill, learned on the first day of training, but it will always come in handy. Story 18, probably simple car stuff, changing a tire, battery cables, jump starting, etc., etc. You would be surprised how many people can't do those things and how often those are your most common problems. Story 19, juggling. Not really important in life, but absolutely fun to do whenever you have a bunch of similar objects laying around. Story 20, I don't work in design, but one of the most helpful things I learned for thinking clearly about solving problems was from a software product designer. He shared the double diamond approach to design, and it has really helped me sharpen my ability to tackle complex problems. However, whether you use that method or any other, it boils down to following a process for solving problems. So many people are quick to jump to a solution without being clear on the problem being solved, who is impacted by it, or even the root cause. Following a process helps ensure that the solution you implement doesn't miss the mark. Story 21, learning how to cut your long hair, as there are a couple of really easy tricks and hacks how to. It will save a lot of money and time. Story 22, hand whistling, super loud, useful in gathering people's attention, partying, loud work environments like construction. Story 23, throwing a cast net. Live bait is 2 to 3 apiece. Fresh fish is 15-20 $20. It's not even truly fresh. Catching fish on live bait you just caught, priceless. Story 24, critical thinking skills. At least learning that it exists and is a talent that one needs to develop. Story 25, mining a gate valve. Bomb boss swims valve really needs to be replaced. If it ever gets turned off, most likely won't open again. Story 26. When I was 18, I learned nunchucks really well in like 8 straight hours. I mean, I was on acid, but still. Story 27. Sitting in your bad feelings and letting the story go. Your mind tries to justify those bad feelings with. Even if that story seems so real, let it go anyway. Doing this constantly heals all of your trauma over time. All of it. Period. Story 28. CLCL, a clipboard tool on Windows that'll blow your mind, especially if you manage a lot of data or code. Story 29. Sewing a button back on to clothes. I've known multiple people who threw out expensive clothing because a button came off. They literally include replacements, and it's not that hard. Story 30. Phonetic alphabet. I just practiced using random number plates on the way home from work. It's nothing amazing, but it's helpful for clarifications. Story 31. I think SEO is one skill that's easy to learn and can pay off immediately. It's evergreen. Even with AI, people will still use search platforms to find verifiable information. There are free courses on LinkedIn Learning that are a great starting point. The best way is to get hands-on by creating your own website. Once you get the hang of it, you can start offering SEO services to SMEs and turn it into a solid side gig. Story 32. Basic bicycle maintenance. It can be a lifesaver, especially if you ever find yourself having to use one as a main method of transportation for any reason. Most of it is real easy to learn and do on your own. Story 33. 10-finger typing. It needs some time to be as fast as before, but with time you can write so much faster. Story 34. Sales, negotiating, emotional intelligence in Excel. Learn in 10 hours, then practice. If you have a solid foundation in business admin, these things make you a unicorn. Story 35. Knitting. You want a cashmere scarf for a fraction of the price and customized to exactly what design, length, weight you want? Boom, done. You just have to source your materials from the right spots and you'll have luxury winter accessories for the rest of your life. Story 36. Sign language. I learned the alphabet and general greetings in about an hour. Now, just trying to get quicker with my spelling, but push comes to shove, I can at least communicate by spelling everything out. Story 37. Cooking and meal prepping. The amount of people who go their entire adult lives without knowing how to simply prepare some food is shocking. Basic cooking is very easy, and for the price of one DoorDash order, you can get all the stuff you'll need, stove excluded. Story 38. Cooking. I learned to cook from two wonderful people who had me over a few Saturday afternoons. Learned. Italian Basics Day. Homemade noodles from noodle extruder and hand crank variety. Pesto from garden to table. Tomato sauce from garden to table. White wine cream sauce. Steak with a cream bourbon sauce from drippings. Variety of dips and hors d'oeuvres. Vol au vent. Bread. Mexican Day. Elote carnitas. Roasting poblanos as well as dehydrating and freezing them. Hot pepper safety. Quesadilla empanada salsa. Multiple types. Guacamole Mexican rice. Homemade tortilla flour and corn. Makeshift crema for when you can't get the real thing. Japanese Day. Sushi rice, seasoned and sesame oiled. Sushi. Gyoza, tonkatsu, W sauce. Teriyaki sauce. Cucumber seaweed salads and dressings. Miso soup. This all took about 12-15 hours max, but shave off the extras and you can learn most of it in 10 hours. I also self-taught CRME BRLA in like 2 hours. If you're afraid of cooking, just take the jump and do it. The sheer variety of cooking skills mentioned here, from Italian pasta to Japanese miso soup, is a great reminder of how accessible good food can actually be. Cooking is one of those rare skills where a small initial time investment pays off every single day for the rest of your life. It's not just about the food itself, but the independence and health benefits that come with being self-sufficient in the kitchen. Story 39. As a programmer, Vim, I feel extremely kneecapped if I ever have to use an editor without Vim key bindings. Story 40. Tier 1 car stuff. How to change a tire. How to check and change your oil. What tire pressure is and how to get it right. What fluids go into your car. None of this is hard. You can learn it all in a couple hours and do all of these tasks in an afternoon. Congrats, you know more about your car's maintenance than almost everyone. Story 41. Learning how to properly sweep a floor. I have met way too many people in my life who chaos sweep. Sweeping requires strategy. You can just swipe a broom across the floor and expect quality results. Story 42. Use your mouse left-handed. It takes maybe 30 minutes and will save you from wrist pain for your entire life if you use the computer a lot. Story 43. Basic finances. A resource to easily learn in 10 hours is the Money Guy Financial Order of Operations. Story 44. Personal income taxes. Can you learn the whole tax code? No, but a basic understanding of taxes for regular people is achievable in 10 hours. Story 45. Learning basic personal finance skills like how credit cards work and how 401ks work. You'd be surprised how many people who can afford it do not contribute to a 401k or an IRA. Contributing just 10 of your check each week for 35 years can be worth millions in retirement, even if you make average income. Story 46. Learn how to use your kitchen knives properly and how to sharpen them. Watching people use Thayer kitchen knives improperly is like nails on a chalkboard for me. And of course, my lovely wife is the worst offender. Let me use this steak knife to chop this carrot. Story 47. Learning how to touch type properly, less than 10 hours to get the basics down, and it will save you thousands of hours over a lifetime. Other close contenders, basic cooking skills, CPR first aid, and personal finance 101. Story 48. Active listening makes your relationships surprisingly easier. Suggest starting with We Need to Talk by Celeste Headley. Agree on much of what I see here too. 5 basic meals for meal prep, basic car stuff, DIY basics, water valve, 100 on this. Story 49. 10-sec version of your question. Control backspace deletes the entire previous word. Percentages are reversible. 8 of 25 is the same as 25 of 8, but 1 is much easier. Story 50. You can get a C-plane rating in under 10 HRs, and it's very fun. You never lose it. This is after you already have a pilot license, so not sure it counts. It lets you fly planes that land on water, fresh or salt. Story 51. Intermediate first aid. Everyone should know CPR, Heimlich on both yourself and another person, tourniquet application and splint, and stabilization field dressing. None of these things are horribly complicated and can save a person's life. Fun side story. I don't think it was the exact day, but within the same week of learning self-Heimlich, I had an incident where I was home by myself chucking candy in the air and catching it in my mouth, and I fully aspirated. If I hadn't just learned it, I would be dead. Story 52. If you're doing anything art-related, learning the basic Crutils, Lylecat, Grop, etc. will make your life so much easier. Story 53. Learning how to talk to AI, aka prompt engineering light, takes like 8 hours max, but after that, you're basically the office wizard. There's nothing that you can't do. Everyone's stressing over slides, reports, and emails, and you're just vibing, assigning work to your personal assistant, and boom, done. AI is the future that'll pay off throughout the life. It's not even cheating. It's just knowing how to delegate to your robot intern properly. One thing that you should know is that AI is like that dumb smart friend, the one who can literally do anything, but only if you explain it like you're teaching a toddler with Wi-Fi. Most people just throw random prompts like make report or write email, and then cry when it gives chaos in paragraph form. But the secret? You gotta tell AI exactly what you want, like a mini project brief. What's the goal? Who's it for? What vibe you want? Spoon feed it. Once you do that, it'll blow your mind. You basically learn how to assign work to AI, break it down, be specific, ask follow-ups, correct it when it fumbles. Treat it like an intern who's genius level smart but zero context. And that's the skill, patience, clarity, and knowing how to talk to your robot coworker so it delivers exactly what's in your head. Once you get that, you stop wasting time fixing messy outputs and start getting scary good results. 10 hours tops to learn it. After that, you're unstoppable. The concept of prompt engineering is basically about learning how to translate human intent into machine action. Describing it as being an office wizard is a fun way to look at it, but it really highlights how important clear communication has become in the digital age. If you can master the art of delegating to AI, you're setting yourself up to be incredibly efficient in almost any modern work environment. Story 54. I'm not sure, but maybe butterfly knife tricks. They are such a flex and are sometimes really easy to do. Story 55. Maintenance on your home appliances and how to do simple things like change a faucet and an outlet. Investigating a source of information's reliability. Giving great massages and/or oral intimacy. Story 56. Budgeting. Get a monthly budget spreadsheet, put all your spending in, and analyze what you are spending your money on, how much you are saving or overspending. This also lets you know what you can afford. It's simple and takes only maybe half hour a month when you get used to it, and it will pay off more than anything else you can do over your entire life. Story 57. How to lift heavy chute safely. Don't lift with your back. Use your arms and legs. They're stronger, a lot less susceptible to injury, and easier to fix. Answer: this is not true. You can't lift something from the floor without using your back muscles, and your spinal erectors can move more weight than just about any other muscle. The real way to avoid injury is to work out regularly and manage loads appropriately. If you can deadlift 3 or even just 2 plates easily, yes, with your back, and do it regularly, a heavy box or a sofa isn't going to put you in the hospital. It is true that lifting something from the floor without bending your knees much, maybe with a rounded back, is a more awkward position that most people do not train a ton. You can train that position by doing stiff leg deadlifts or even Jefferson curls and lift chute awkwardly to your heart's content. On the other hand, the way to get injured or injured because you're interpreting DOMS as an injury is to be sedentary most of the time and then spend a day once every few years picking up heavy things. That's how people throw their back out when they dig out the Christmas decorations, whatever that's supposed to mean. This story brings up an interesting debate about physical safety and lifting techniques. It's one of those topics where people often have very strong and differing opinions, whether it's focusing on your legs or strengthening your back muscles. Because these can be subjective experiences, I should mention that I don't necessarily support the specific opinions or advice found in the comments of this post. Always prioritize your own safety and do your own research. Story 58. Zipper repair. Most tents and sleeping bags at festivals only are discarded because of slightly buggy zips. Story 59. Learning how YouNeedABudget.com functions. Literally saves my financial life and still use it a decade later. Excel sheets basics. How to change bulbs lights in your vehicle. How to change a tire. How to properly dress yourself. Understand the differences between casual, business professional, black tie, white tie. Learning how to sew. Learning how to cook an egg multiple ways. If you can master an egg, you can do anything. Fried, over easy, poached. Story 60, self-care. Because you don't need anyone else to make you happy. Don't have to worry about divorce, child support, or keeping your partner happy. You'll have more money in your bank account, and living is just much cheaper, lol. Story 61, body weight exercises and stretching. If able with 30 minutes every other day at least, a consistent body weight workout will make later life much easier, promote better body health habits all around, and it's free fitness. Story 62, learn the basics of playing the guitar. It is a nice hobby that can be done when you are elderly as well. Story 63, knitting and sewing. It definitely takes more than 10 hours to get good at it, but learning the basics enough to knit a scarf or sew on a button can sure be learned in less than 10 hours. It can save you a ton of money because you'll know how to fix your own clothes and make some new ones. Story 64, I learned to brush my teeth with either hand. Total time actually brushing my teeth to learn that was probably way less than 10 hours. Useless most of the time, but if I ever lose my arm, I'm set. Story 65, honestly, a lot of home and car maintenance. I recently changed out my garbage disposal. It was tedious, but it wasn't difficult. I've never done it before and decided to do it on a whim because it's cheaper than hiring a professional, and after watching how-to videos, it seems simple enough. The whole process took maybe 2 hours, and I'm confident if I had to do it again, I could do it in less than half that time. I've also learned how to change doorknobs, fix garage door openers, and learn to properly mount stuff on my walls in my home. Also learning how to change a tire, change your oil, windshield wipers, cabin air filters, etc. for your vehicle is a huge benefit. For luxury vehicles, some things are more complicated because they can be designed differently, but your more common vehicles are relatively simple. Story 66. Manners, unfortunately, from what I've seen, are a dying etiquette. Stand you well, command social respect, but seem to be dying off in today's society. Not a skill, but a fundamental in society. Story 67. Kind of a weird one, but I'd say learning the location of every country on a world map. I didn't do it until I was an adult, but afterwards I was shocked at how much my ability to retain information about places improved. Having the world map in your head works kind of like a memory palace, but for info about like Kosovo and Brunei. Story 68. Honestly, learning to touch type properly. I spent years doing the whole hunt and peck thing with 2 fingers. I thought I was fast enough. I was wrong. I finally forced myself to learn the right way using some free website over a weekend. The first few hours are hell. You feel like you've forgotten how to use a computer, but then it clicks. Suddenly, you're not typing anymore. Your thoughts just appear on the screen. It's a total game changer for everything you do, from work emails to just chatting online. Seriously, it's the best productivity boost you can get for less than 10 hours of effort. Story 69. You can learn to passably make 2 to 3 basic dishes you like in a couple of 60-minute attempts each. You can learn to change a passenger vehicle tire safely and quickly in under an hour. Then you have time to learn to check and safely add oil and coolant, and how to check and change your battery in a gas vehicle, and then probably time to watch a movie. How to treat minor boo-boos and sprains, including how to wrap them up. You can learn to read a roadmap passably in a couple of hours, and then an hour or 2 of practicing, watching for signs and mileage markers will help a lot in being able to navigate. You can learn to get to different areas of your town region without GPS. I love the idea of becoming a jack of all trades through these small 10-hour investments. Whether it's basic car maintenance or knowing how to read a physical map without relying on GPS, these skills represent a very practical kind of self-reliance. It's not about being an expert in everything, but about having enough knowledge to stay safe and keep moving forward in almost any situation. Story 70. Less life-saving than other, but cooking. Basic cooking skills are very quick to learn, and you can adapt them. Story 71. Knots. There are many knots for different situations, and you don't need all of them for sure. But being able to attach a piece of rope to something is useful skill. Story 72. Learning basics for home ownership. How to turn your water off in an emergency. How to test fire alarms. How to insert a wall plug or use a drill. Story 73. Touch typing is a crucial skill that you can master in under 10 hours, delivering lifelong benefits. It boosts productivity, reduces strain, and sharpens focus across all professions. By typing faster, you'll save valuable time every day, adding up to thousands of hours over the years. Invest in this now for lasting advantages. Story 74. Learning to juggle can be picked up in just a few hours, and it's such a fun party trick that gets a lot of laughs. Story 75. Learning to whistle really loudly. I learned for recall for my dog, but use it to emphatically cheer at weddings concerts, to get my kids' attention when they are glued to the TV, etc. Story 76. Bit niche, but I'm so glad I took the time to learn how to make espresso myself. Invested in a machine last year, and it has already paid itself off. Story 77. Stretching. Learning how to stretch properly and then doing it every day will benefit you so much in the long run. Story 78. It took me a couple of hours to learn how to whistle with my tongue. This method is by far the loudest noise I can make without much effort. So loud, in fact, that I can give myself tinnitus. Story 79. You are not your mind. Energy and joy exist within you. Learn to separate yourself from your mind. Stop following the stories it tells you, and a life you never imagine awaits you. I recommend The Untethered Soul as a start. Can be read, listened to in under 10 hours. Story 80. Learn to type numbers without looking. I got twice as fast in about an hour. Plenty of online tutorials. Answer. Use the number pad. There's a little nub on the 5 keys so you can find your position without looking. Way faster than using the number row. In the same vein, learn to type the proper way using the home row. There's also those little nubs on the F and J keys so you can orient your hands without looking. I work in IT and can't believe how many people type with just their pointer fingers. If you stick to the correct technique, it might be slow at first, but over time you will get really fast. Story 81. Pays off spiritually or financially. Learning to use a sewing machine I thought was a good one I didn't see in top comments. It's intimidating for sure, and you're not going to be making clothes for yourself after 10 hours, but learning about what materials and tools aside from the sewing machine doesn't take too long. Then learning to use the machine and the techniques to get you rolling is all totally feasible within 10 hours. Then you can start occasionally being able to fix your own things or sew things together. It's handy to have in your back pocket, even if you don't intend on picking it up as a hobby. Story 82. Maybe boring, but from a work perspective, definitely. Knowing how to use it efficiently and effectively, not just do this one job with little input. Understanding how you can use it to benefit from it the most. It takes time to learn, but future-wise, it's a big payoff. I have so many tasks I've managed to automate whilst also increasing in quality. From free time. Story 83. Learning to type without looking, aka touch typing. Had this random fun idea during the COVID, and it's been a hack every time. Your mind is clearer when you don't need to look for the keys. Takes 10 HRs to change your technique and to be of normal typing speed, around 40 WPM. To further the skill, I allotted around 2 HRs daily and I achieved 100 words per minute in a month. Story 84. How to search for answer online and not getting scammed. Really, it helps both in life and works. Usually I am better than peers at work because I can Google the correct solution faster. Of course, experience helps in filtering out wrong or not relevant. However, most of the time is just know what and where to search. Story 85. Learn to tie some basic knots. You would be surprised how far a small rope and the right knot can carry you in a pinch. Story 86. Honestly, riding a bike, total time invested to learn that skill might be less than 10 hours, but it stays forever. A good transportation and way to exercise. Story 87. Learning to read Korean. The caveat is that you need to understand Korean in order for it to be useful. Story 88. Probably a lot of things you buy pre-made at the grocers. I learned to make ricotta from scratch from one recipe, and it pretty much turned out decent on my first try. It's 100 not worth making at home due to the required amount of milk and the output. Entirely up to you. Some things just always taste better at home. Story 89. Learning how Excel VBA works. You can do it in under 10 minutes. Then, use ChatGPT to code with it. Now you can do absolutely insane things that no one in 10 kilometer radius would dream of in Excel. The only limiting factor is how good are you at explaining what you want and how you want it. It's not as easy as it seems, but after a while, it's your second nature to be ultra precise. Story 90. Learn to hunt, prepare, and cook your own food. Same goes for grow, prepare, and cook your own food. Yes, it could take longer for your proceeds to nurture, but learning to do it correctly doesn't. These skills help you more than learn Excel or Word, for example, which takes about the same time. Story 91. Learning to input numbers with the numeric keypad without looking. Great when it comes time to entering a phone number or credit card number. I use it at work for various things frequently. Story 92. It's learning how to communicate clearly, especially writing short structured messages. It doesn't take long to practice, but clear communication makes you stand out at work, saves endless misunderstandings, and builds respect. It's underrated because it feels obvious, but it really pays dividends for life. Story 93. I learned how to juggle in a few hours. I can't say how long it took exactly. Even though I learned as a teen, I can still juggle with a bit of warm-up 25 years later. Once in a while, it comes in handy to pass the time or to make new friends and find out who else can juggle. Story 94. Learning how AC and DC current works, was taught well, learned fast, and now have no issue getting $200K plus a year jobs. Story 95. Welding. Not a certified awesome welder, but 10 hours of instruction and practice would make you good enough to weld most things. Story 96. For me, it was learning to type. I didn't get to take typing in high school, so a few years later I took a class at the community college. It paid off. Story 97. Learning to type using all 10 fingers. Touch typing. It doesn't take long to pick up, but dramatically increases productivity over your lifetime. Being able to look at the screen and not the keyboard makes writing emails, coding, or just chatting online much faster and less fatiguing. There are plenty of free online tutorials and you'll see improvement within a few hours. Story 98. Wrapping a cable properly. 10 minutes to learn, and now you no longer have tangled cables ever again. Story 99. How to use a sewing machine. Most libraries have a maker space with sewing machines and free lessons. It's so easy to do things like make curtains and tablecloths, hem a bridesmaid dress, repair work pants with the crotch ripped out, replace a button, make Halloween costumes, etc. And those are things only take a few minutes to do. Story 100. A few basic knots. My scout son has been teaching me, and I cannot believe I went this long tying stuff by just twisting the rope until it looks like it will hold. Story 101. Clean your room, lift weights, start a fire, cook a meal, listen instead of talk, feel empathy, feel anger without outburst, pray, read from paper once a day, breathe easy. There's a big old list. Story 102. Learning how to properly fillet a chicken fish. It takes a few attempts to nail it, but once you learn the trick, and it really takes less than 10 hours, it becomes a massive money saver in the long run when preparing food at home. Story 103. Learn how to do an oil change. Easy peasy, keeps you clued into regular vehicle maintenance and saves you money. Story 104. Empathy. Being able to understand, accept, and adapt to the emotional states of people around you. How it pays off. Understanding other people's emotions helps you be a more efficient communicator, negotiator, caregiver, parent, etc. Because you're able to intuit the other person's motivations, needs, and boundaries. Better understand your own emotions and actions. Be less bothered, angered, upset by other people's words, actions. You're less likely to just consider them as a jerk and then get mad about how many assholes there are in the world. Be the kind of person that other people want to be around because you're easy to talk to, get along with. How you learn it in 10 hours. Read a couple articles, watch a couple videos on the subject to get some basic ideas. Practice in conversation, either in the moment or on reflection, thinking about how the other person's feelings are impacting their thoughts, speech, and choices. Don't think about whether they're right, wrong to think, feel that way. Just accept that they do and try to understand how that's driving their life today. Story 105. Excel was terrible to learn, but has made my life so much easier when it comes to reporting things at work and tracking trends. Story 106. Nonviolent communication. You can learn the principles in 10 minutes and spend the next 9 HRs 50 mins practicing and have happier relationships forever. Story 107. Basic finance literacy stuff such as budgeting, mortgages, negotiations, taxes, investing, etc. I'd argue that just by knowing and understanding these, one can improve his quality of life significantly. Answer. Basic investing is so fudge easy, and people make it so fudge hard. 0. If you have debt, pay it off first, except for debt at very low interest rates, like a mortgage or promo APR car loan. Then save 3 months' worth of expenses in cash and set it aside. 1. Open a free brokerage account. Any extra money goes in here. Buy VT-SAX or any other broad index fund. Continue doing this. 2. Congrats. After a few decades, you are now a millionaire. Resist the temptation to buy individual stocks, crypto, memes, and other hype-driven shoot. Good investments don't need marketing or hype. You might get rich off meme stocks, but it is almost always a zero-sum game, meaning that every dollar that someone makes is a dollar that someone else has lost. Story 108. I learned how to breathe quite early on. Took only a couple moments, but it's been really helpful throughout my life. Story 109. Learning how to change a tire, reset a circuit breaker in your fuse box, change a plug, fuse or light bulb, learning CPR, signs of a stroke, signs of a heart attack. There are so many. Story 110. Texas Hold'em. Learn in 20 minutes, practice for life. The ultimate game and endless good times with friends. Story 111. Typing properly. 100 worth it if you're a student or work in an office. You don't need to become some Dvorak alt keyboard hardliner, but learning to type reasonably fast, I'd say aim for 120 WPM with 10 fingers is so worth it. Story 112. If there are many skills that take years to master, some can be learned in less than 10 hours and offer a lasting return on investment. Rather than talking about a single magic skill, it's more accurate to consider a category of skills that share this characteristic: soft skills and foundational skills. Here are some concrete examples that fit your request. 1. The art of communication and negotiation. Why it's profitable. Knowing how to communicate clearly and negotiate effectively is a universal skill. Whether for a job interview, a salary negotiation, team collaboration, or even in your personal life, this skill improves your relationships and helps you achieve your goals. Less than 10 hours to learn. The basics of communication, active listening, message clarity, body language, and negotiation. Preparation, identifying needs, seeking a compromise, can be learned quickly through videos, books, or workshops. Practice and observation are the keys to mastery. 2. Copywriting, persuasive writing. Why it's profitable. Copywriting is the art of writing to sell. In today's digital world, where content is king, this skill is highly sought after. It allows you to create texts that captivate, inform, and, most importantly, prompt action. Less than 10 hours to learn. The fundamental principles, catchy headlines, use of powerful words, persuasive structure, can be assimilated in a single day. Many free online courses and tutorials allow you to quickly get started and begin practicing. The basics of copywriting can be used for marketing emails, product descriptions, social media ads, and even resumes. 3. Time management and productivity. Why it's profitable. Being able to manage your time and priorities is a fundamental skill for success. It helps reduce stress, improve efficiency, and more easily achieve your goals, whether professional or personal. Less than 10 hours to learn. Methods like the Pomodoro technique, the Eisenhower matrix, or the principles of deep work can be understood and implemented in just a few hours. These are simple but powerful systems that can transform your daily life. 4. The basics of automation with AI. Why it's profitable. Mastery of artificial intelligence tools is becoming increasingly crucial. Learning how to use generative AI to automate repetitive tasks, draft content, or generate ideas is a skill that saves you valuable time and significantly boosts your productivity. Less than 10 hours to learn. Most AI tools are designed to be intuitive. In less than 10 hours, you can learn the basics of prompt engineering, knowing how to ask the right questions to the AI, and master tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini for specific tasks. This skill is an investment in the future, as AI will be increasingly integrated into all professions. In short, the most profitable skill that takes less than 10 hours to learn is not a single technical skill, but rather a foundational skill that increases the value of all others. By developing one of these skills, you invest in knowledge that will be useful to you throughout your life, no matter what path you take. Using AI as a foundational tool for drafting content and generating ideas is becoming a massive productivity booster in many fields. It allows you to skip anything. Skip the blank page phase and jump straight into refining and perfecting your work. As the story notes, it's not just a technical skill. It's a way to increase the value of all your other talents by letting you focus on the creative and strategic side of things. Story 113. Not sure it is here because of all the comments, but how TP create personal family budget and make sure you actually understand it. Story 114. Learning how to tie various knots for different applications. But you do have to exercise this knowledge. I recommend having a couple of 3-foot-long cords at your workstation and just practice them a couple times a day. Otherwise, when you go to actually tie a useful knot, you won't remember how. Story 115. Rubik's Cubing. It takes like 6 age to learn from YT tutorials, but it's a cool party trick. Says most people assume that people who can solve Rubik's Cube are smart, But it's all fun and games until an actual speed cuber comes along and absolutely wrecks you, which is what happened to me and Shu around 20 years back. I still remember it. He stole my spotlight and it never came back. Edit, I realized I made a fatal mistake. Rubik's cubing ain't really that fun, see. It makes you seem cool. It's also pretty fun once you learn how to solve it. Story 116, tying knots. It's an incredibly valuable skill that I use every single day. Start with bowline, figure of 8 on a bite, clove hitch, and double fisherman's. Most other knots derive from those. Story 117, changing your car oil. How to use tools, gardening, operating small equipment, household DIY like plumbing, appliance installation, painting, power washing, gutter cleaning, changing fuses, etc. Story 118, learn how to Google search whenever you are stuck and need help solving a problem. No matter the subject, there are tons of YouTube videos that can help. Story 119, I would say sewing. Probably takes longer than 10 hours, but just learning how to make curtains, hem pants, fix holes, sew buttons will save a ton of money in the long run and allow you to recycle old clothes. Story 120, typing on keyboard if that's your go-to for communicating with customers or people, unless you're a mobile phone typist. Story 121, I was scrolling down and trying to find if anyone mentioned AI. I have started to use it a couple of years back. Not a long life yet. However, it is a game changer. I am trying to teach my old parents to use it as well. Story 122. Every day I learn 5 new words that takes a few minutes, but I repeat them to myself for at least 20 minutes, so I retain the knowledge. Story 123. Learning how to fix your phone. Parts are typically cheap and tutorials are on YouTube. Once you replace your screen, you will start to feel like you could fix most things, and guess what? You can. Story 124. Keyboard typing with proper finger placement. In 10 hours, you will get good enough to use it daily. Then you will get better every day and soon be able to type as fast as you talk and think. This makes a huge difference if you use a computer daily. Typing this on my phone using my thumbs, the irony. Story 125. CPR, how to use a tourniquet and methods to control bleeding. I would say how to budget and financial literacy, but I think that's a bit much for 10 AURs depending on the person. Story 126. Basic cooking skills. Learning how to do laundry. Learning about erogenous zones, what stimulates your preferred romantic group. Learning how to identify a credible source. Learning how to research something. Learning how to follow a recipe or cooking video for more advanced noms. Learning how to use an investment app, assuming you continue to use it, etc. Story 127. One day I made the decision to stop saying things were dumb or stupid and to say that they aren't for me. Perspective shift. Less negativity always pays off. Story 128. I'd say spending 10 hours learning how your computer works will pay off forever. So many people are unaware how their machines work. Story 129. To play chess, dominoes or mahjong, and a few card games like poker, rummy, bridge, etc. You won't play very well, but you can then join a game without being totally lost. There are a lot of games people never play just because they've never played them. Story 130. Playing the ukulele. Grab one online and get one of those little clippy tuning thingies for cheap. And my personal recommendation, grab some felt picks too. They won't catch on the strings as much as plastic picks or your nails. In 30 mins, you'll know at least 3 chords. A couple of hours practice in the island strum becomes second nature. Once you know C, G, F, and AM, the hardest one is G, but still not hard, there are loads of songs you can play. Learn E7, and then you can play the classic Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I'm still struggling with the straight E chord though, but that's universally known as a bigger to learn. I tried to learn guitar years ago, but the metal strings were too painful. Uke strings are plastic. I can't sing, learned a tiny bit of keyboard when I was in school, enough to play Mary Had a Little Lamb with one hand and not much more. Point is, I'm generally not a very musical person, but within a week of trying to learn for an hour or so per day, I could bumble through I'm Yours, Jason Mraz, and Riptide, Vance Joy. Learning an instrument like the ukulele is such a rewarding way to spend 10 hours. It's a hobby that's all about the joy of the process rather than just the final result, and its portability makes it easy to take anywhere. Sometimes we get so caught up in learning things for utility or profit that we forget the value of learning something simply because it's fun and makes life a little brighter. Story 131. Most things in 10 hours you can grasp the basics of, even some of the most complex tasks. You won't be anywhere good at it though. Story 132. Reading a budget spreadsheet. Once you get the hang of tracking income versus expenses, literally a couple of hours with Excel Google Sheets, you'll understand where your money actually goes. It saves you from debt traps, helps you save, invest smarter, and pays off for the rest of your life. Story 133. Sewing. Being able to repair your own clothes is such a money saver in and of itself, but sewing and other fiber skills is so versatile it will never stop paying off in so many ways. Story 134. Learning how to use an Instant Pot, not sponsored. Really, it takes maybe 30 minutes to read the instructions and start a pot of chili, which is then done in like 15 minutes. They can cook amazing meals in no time with minimal setup. I did a rump roast, potatoes and carrots in under an hour, 15-minute prep, 40-minute cook. Highly recommend the 8-quart so you can freeze leftovers too. Story 135. Learning how to whistle and hum at the same time so you can communicate with frogs. It has brought me so much joy. Story 136. Driving. If learn how to drive a car, 1 HR per day, in 10 days you can easily learn how to drive a car. That skill is very useful in any kind of emergency condition, especially medical one. Story 137. Basic kitchen knife skills. Learning how to cut stuff properly has improved my enjoyment of cooking no end. Plus it looks cool. Story 138. Basic home maintenance and then basic home improvement. As you learn more, it builds confidence, and then you do bigger projects. I knew nothing and slowly remodeled a home over 10 years. Every room, every project myself, all from YouTube. My dad had taught me nothing. I got good enough. I GC'd and built a home from scratch years ago. I started very small with little projects that often took less than 10 hours. Story 139. Crochet. I learned at age 9 and have made practically everything there is to make. Granted, the math skills and common sense came in handy too. Story 140. Basic sign language. Whenever I meet a deaf customer, they're always so happy that I know it, especially because I wear a mask most of the time. Story 141. How to use a standard ratchet tie strap. I'm terrified by the number of times I hear people say, "I'm not going that far. It should be fine," as they head towards the freeway on-ramp. Story 142. Basic hygiene and fashion. Maybe sounds unnecessary, primarily the fashion part, but looking nice can help out a lot in surprising ways. It doesn't have to be anything crazy either, but learning basic fashion and color matching can help you look more appealing with near any level of budget. Even if it's just subconscious, nice matching colors and good hygiene helps how others see you. Plus the mental boost of looking nice and feeling clean is good. Hygiene because being clean helps cover some mental and physical health issues before they even come up, i.e., healthy body and better self-esteem. Story 143. How to restart your modem and router and leave rejoin wireless networks. You can solve a lot of internet connection issues this way. Story 144. Felling a tree with a chainsaw. Once you learn safety and assessment, you're far, far better off than 95% of all chainsaw owners on the globe. Story 145. Soldering. You probably won't be great after 10 hours, but it's enough to get something working that won't fail again anytime soon. Granted, there are a lot of things that are all integrated circuits these days, and through hole soldering isn't as useful as it used to be, but basic soldering is a good start. Story 146. First aid. There are plenty of options to learn, and IMO should be refreshed once a year if possible because some stuff changes. Story 147. Changing your own brakes will save you a ton of money, and you can make a ton of money on the side. Once you get good at it with the correct tools, you can do them in 15-30 minutes. Learn rotors while you're at it and make even more. Story 148. Personal finance, investment vehicles for retirement, and tax advantages of using those investment vehicles. Story 149. Less serious but juggling. Kids love it, and I've broken it out at many a birthday party. And when they age up, it's fun to teach to teens. 1010 would learn again. Story 150. Super simple sewing skills. Can fix small damage and also can buy things you otherwise wouldn't and apply simple tailoring. Story 151. Learning how to type. Yes, it sounds antiquated, but if you can learn to type without having to look at your keyboard, it saves a ton of time and is better for neck. Make Mavis Beacon proud. Story 152. Touch typing. It's how you interact with computers. The time you'll save will compound over the years in practically every job. Story 153. Memorizing an entertaining short story or long poem. I can't count the number of times I pulled this out of my back pocket when traffic came to a standstill or sitting around a campfire. Story 154. Learn how to swim. It can save your life. It shocks me how many people accidentally fall into water and die because they don't know how to swim. You can easily learn the basics and enough to keep yourself alive in 10 hours. Story 155. Small talk. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but you never know who you'll meet or what they know. When I first moved overseas, I had a small talk with some dude, and he told me all the roads to avoid at night, how to use contactless payments, bus routes, and which shop has the cheapest and best kebabs. Story 156. Learning to tie several useful knots. You'd be amazed how often it comes in handy to have useful knots literally at your fingertips. Story 157. Learning to do the chef's claw when cutting something in the kitchen. If you learn it, you won't have to worry about cutting off a finger or a serious cut if done properly. Since learning it, I have not cut myself in the kitchen. I burn myself a lot, though, because I am klutzy. Story 158. Putting on a tie. Younger guys, I can't recommend this one enough. You look sharper and more professional. Find the right length in shirt. The women will appreciate it too. Story 159. Learning to speak without saying and so on. It will make you sound way more confident and well-spoken, even if the content of what you're saying has not improved. Story 160. Cooking. I'm not talking Master Chef level stuff, but the basics of how to cook meats, noodles, veggies, etc. Story 161. Wiping my own butt really paid off for my mom, I guess. But that must have taken longer than 10 hours for me to learn. I don't remember. Never mind. Story 162. Questioning everything. Whenever you need to make a decision, spend a few minutes playing devil's advocate with yourself, especially if it's something trivial or a no-brainer. Make it a fun yet challenging game of who, what, when, where, how, why against your alter ego. You'll learn an absolute ton about your good and bad qualities, your habits, thought processes, etc. You'll also naturally learn how to phrase questions opposing views as inquisitive instead of abrasive or combative. That kind of honest and earnest self-reflection will eventually affect absolutely everything in your life. Most of my greatest lifestyle changes came from questioning things that I otherwise would have never given a second thought. On the other side of things, constantly questioning how everyday objects work will give you an extremely well-rounded foundation of transferable, relatable knowledge. If you can't work it out on your own, Google it. If you ever find yourself in a conversation about something you haven't explored, use the opportunity to apply the same line of questions you debate yourself with. People love it when someone is open and curious about something they're passionate about. Eventually, you'll be able to relate to anyone or anything at any time. Conversations become deeper and meaningful. Your connection to people becomes stronger. And sometimes you come across hidden passions. Answer. Do this normally, but then do it on a psychedelic to make it permanent and make it come naturally. Not a doctor. Don't do this if you have a history of mental illness or underage. Do your research. YMMV. If you're predisposed to being logical enough to do this, psychedelics can be kind of like the limitless pill. If you take a reasonable dose and set an intention to work on that you want to ingrain, it makes you connect with the world and view things through an objective lens outside of your biases. You need to be intentional about that goal, though, or you might get distracted. Story 163. Learning basic financial literacy, i.e., the power of compound interest, basic diversified investing, stocks and shares, taking advantage of matched pension contributions, avoiding debt. Story 164. Investing. You keep learning more and more for the rest of your life, but you can get a life-changing amount of info in 10 hours or less, learning how to invest. Story 165. Cooking basic stuff like broiled chicken, meatballs, pasta, etc. So easy to save a lot of money, but people are lazy. Answer. Yup, definitely. Learning to use a slow cooker gives hot meals ready to go when you get home from work. I used to make lots of burgers and breakfast burritos and take them to work for lunch. Cost less than $1 for lunch while other people went out during the break or ordered stuff spending an average of $12 a day for lunch. The smell when I nuked the burgers and breakfast burritos in the microwave made people drool. Story 166. Learning basics about nutrition and nutrition labels. The order in which your body 1. Uses and 2. Stores fat, sugar, muscle. Understanding nutrition labels will pay dividends on your health with just understanding simple things like, oh, vitamin water is good for you, no? Oh, wait, it has more carbs per serving than straight up Mountain Dew. Whoops. Or, oh, my one Starbucks per day is 85 g of carbs, the equivalent of like 6 pieces of bread. Then the muffin was 45 g. So I essentially ate a loaf of bread for breakfast and am not full. No wonder I'm gaining weight and borderline diabetic. Differences in vitamin types. Water soluble, you can take lots of. Fat soluble, you need to be more careful with. Get one expensive lab test done in your life that benefits insurance don't cover yet but may soon. They are $400 to $600, but you can have your blood sent to one of 3 or so labs that checks every type of mineral and vitamin to see what you specifically may be low on. 80 of Americans are vitamin D deficient, which is the one contributor to COVID deaths and other problems. You may have a specific deficiency which causes weight or energy problems. You may notice trends like certain products are 99 water. Why don't I just buy the active ingredient and make it myself? This goes for even non-food items like plant substance killer, bug spray, various concentrates. Bonus point, remove all plastic from your life, especially things that touch your food like plastic cups and plates. The data on plastics is so insane these days. Something like the average male body part has 25 blood vessels clogged with a plastic now, which is the one contributor to erectile dysfunction. It causes early puberty in girls and delayed puberty in boys. Microplastics, phthalates in the plastic that make the plastic softer. Remember how old water bottles in the 80s and 90s were rigid and sharp if broken? Now they are soft and crumple, have the same shape as estrogen, which confuses our bodies and causes so many problems. Story 167. If we're talking soft skill, I'd say being able to stay disciplined and follow a set of rules without making excuses. Story 168. Learn how. See yourself bald. No longer need a hairdresser, just shave your head. Save ton of time and money. Story 169. Basic rope work and knot tying. Comes in handy all the time, and people look at you like you're a wizard, lol. Story 170. Learning a sewing machine. It takes a while to figure out proper tension, and that'll piss you the fudge off when you're starting out. However, once you're over that hump, you'll be able to fix your own clothes, make gifts, curtains, blankets, clothes, costumes. The world is your oyster. Answer. Not to mention how beautiful clothing gets when you figure out how to just slightly alter things that were bought off the rack. I have always had a larger hip and a smaller waist, and used to look like I was wearing a sack until my mother taught me things like darts and taking in at the waist and letting out at the hips and the benefits of a well-placed button versus a poorly placed button for somebody with a curvy figure. This is definitely a life skill that I appreciate. Story 171. Basic cooking skills. It's surprising how many people can't make a loaf of bread from scratch, or who burn foods to the bottom of their saucepans due to excess heat. Story 172. Some basic civics. Understanding how your government actually works and is structured will save you a lot of frustration and anger. It might even save you from going down dangerous roads with your ideas. There are usually pretty good reasons why things work the way they do, even though things might seem slow and inefficient at times. Answer. I swear so much of the small government types are against it because there's some local ordinance they disagree with that's actually for their benefit, like preventing runoff from tainting their own drinking water and such. Story 173. Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta, Echo Foxtrot, Golf Hotel, India Juliet Kilo Lima, Mike November, Oscar, Papa Quebec, Romeo, Sierra Tango, Uniform, Victor Whiskey, X-Ray, Yankee Olu. Story 174. Learning the shortcuts for software you use daily. I basically forced the juniors to start using shortcuts. It always pays off in the end, software engineer. But this goes for everyone. Designers in Photoshop, people using spreadsheets. If you use it daily, put in a bit of time to learn how to be efficient. Answer. I did this at my first internship. I would look up the shortcuts for basically everything I did, which made me really slow initially. Would work on trying to do everything with the fewest keystrokes. Within a few weeks, I could jump around my computer and editor really darn fast. Still had no idea how to actually code though. An interesting thing happened then. Managers and teammates would see me use the computer, presume I knew what I was doing, and then give me more interesting projects and even ask me, the intern, questions. All because I knew a few shortcuts. Story 175. The basics of staying in shape. 10 years of research and you would know enough to work out without hurting yourself. Story 176. How to whistle. Being able to get someone's attention from far away comes in handy. My nieces and nephews always know when I'm on the sideline. Story 177. Learning the entire repertoire and all 3 notes required for the USC Marching Band. Less time if you already know how to hold an instrument and make noise with it. How does this pay off, you ask? Well, you can annoy everyone you know by playing that one fudge song over and over, forever. Story 178. Wire welding. I was told when I first started welding that if you can write your name, you can easily learn to wire weld. Old man was correct. Story 179. Learning about compound interest. Saves you a fortune on growth and saves you a fortune for not paying on credit cards. Story 180. Similar to the control shortcuts, the alt number way to enter ASCII characters has saved me so much time and made my computer work look so much better. For my industry, knowing how to make the 86F, the Greek letter for phi for phase, etc., and I've been using the M- for 30 years. Story 180. Learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube will give you a hobby, or at least a cool desk toy to make you look smarter. And doesn't take too long to learn the beginner's method. But once you learn that, you'll want to learn some basic speed cubing stuff. And before you know it, you'll be blowing your stimulus on 1717's edit. I should mention that there's thousands of tutorials on YouTube, but Red KB and Crazy Bad Cuber were some of my favorites. Story 181. Sewing. How to start a fire without matches lighter. Butterfly knife tricks. Use a trainer if you're starting out, or the actual knives are illegal where you are. Story 182. Solving a Rubik's Cube, believe it or not. It might take you longer than an hour to memorize the steps to solve without looking. But if you Google up a video or set of instructions, you should be able to solve one within 30-45 minutes. Story 183. Basic Excel or Google Sheets. It's shocking how many people with office jobs can't use this critical tool. Story 184. You can learn to fly a light plane in that time. Of course, that doesn't include learning takeoffs and landings, which, depending on circumstances, could prove problematic. Still, Story 185. Learning CPR. Also learning guitar piano instrument chords. It helps a lot to have the basic foundations. Story 186. Learn to solve a Rubik's Cube. Takes a bit more than half an hour, but it's a very simple process that never fails to impress. Also, you should practice chess for about 15 minutes a day. Not only does it do wonders for preventing Alzheimer's, but it's very impressive if you're unbeatable within your friend group. Story 187. How to play cigar box guitar. 1 finger for the chords and 1 finger to strum with. Nothing fancy but great fun. Story 188. Excel basics. Not everyone knows how to use it, and even after my comp sci degree, I still didn't. But it really takes less than an hour to understand the basics and the interface, and it's so helpful. Story 189. A new writing system. I made one up in high school 5 years ago and still use it today. And it looks cool. You just make up the letters and have fun, then write with ever, and you remember the symbols very quickly. Answer, I had buddies that did this. They started just making an English alphabet with different hieroglyphics, but then went on to change how grammar and certain things are spelled, how sentence structure works, etc. Then studied how to make languages and turned it into a fully functional spoken and written language. They simplified the language to make the speaking portion easy to learn and would only teach it to close friends, which included me. I met them a while after they had this all going. It was years ago. I don't have contact with any of them anymore, but I still remember quite a bit of it. Story 190. The basics of crochet knitting. It's quite handy if you want to something original. In the end, the basics are quite simple. With those basics, you can make anything. Pillows, stuffed animals, dolls, clothes, washcloths, pot holders, gloves, hats, scarves, and more. It can be as quick or slow as you like, and as easy or challenging as you like. Plus, it's very mindful, kind of like meditation, and really calming and rewarding as you see your work grow and take form. Answer, it bothers me so much how people in my life think I'm a genius or super talented for being able to crochet. It's so simple once you get the gist of it. Some of my friends and family have already started trying to learn, and they keep asking me questions about how to dumb down a pattern or whether the pattern uses US or UK terms. They won't listen to me explaining how to do these things. They just want me to do it for them and then complain when the project isn't going the way it's supposed to because their tension is wrong or they're using the wrong yarn hook stitch. Story 191. How to give a proper massage. Yeah, I know LMTs go to school for months, But there are a ton of great professionals on YouTube, and in an hour you can learn a lot of good massage techniques. Also, how to tie knots.